Let's go ahead and get started, everybody. So today's May 28th, and start this select board meeting at 5:58 p.m. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance and get going.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay. All right. This is last meeting's. Okay, so the select board has looked at the meeting minutes for May 14th and made a minor amendment and approved that. So that will be posted on the town website if anyone wants to review it. For today, we have warrant number 25, expenses totaling $88,706. Check numbers 15,486 through 15,502. We have receipts of $45,514. Receipt numbers 1863 through 1945. Our total percentage of 2023 real estate taxes collected year to date is 89%. Okay, at this time, we will start open session. Questions? Mary Ann?
I originally mentioned about having the GWI conversation on the agenda and it's not on, so it'd be okay to do it in open session.
I apologize for that. And
You asked, or Diane asked me if or somebody responded to me and said if we wanted it on the agenda, and I didn't get back to you. So.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Please.
Okay. So I would just like to kind of understand a little bit more clearly where the select board is on the decision for placement of the hub site. My understanding is that the cost to the town is nothing for the service, for this community service that would be coming to town with another internet service provider. And so the aspect of receiving some lease arrangement for use of 1,000 square feet of space on the sand lot somewhere back in the back or whatever would seem reasonable to be able to provide a lease that we would benefit from, which would, I don't know ultimately whether it would actually pay for our internet service here over time.
Right.
And then also provide the ability for the internet provider to have a centralized hub for the service. Whereas if it's not gonna have a hub site, the internet service would have to be by pole. They would have to have different units in different parts of town.
Right, so the way that we left things last meeting was that we were kind of feeling like we should try to probably negotiate for a higher amount of lease money from the company for the site, and we didn't feel like we would have time to adequately discuss that and just make sure that the site proposed wasn't going to interfere with the things going on around the sand pit in time to put it on the warrant for the town to vote on in a few weeks. So if I'm remembering things correctly, we were going to try and discuss that further, and if we needed to have a special town meeting in order for the town to approve us to do that, and that's how we would proceed.
Well, I guess the next question then would be, you as the select board have that ability to make that decision. This is a piece of property that we own, so I guess I need to understand more clearly why it requires going to town meeting.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if we do have the ability to grant them a parcel of the town's property without that going to the town for a vote, and that's something that we discussed and thought that we had to look into further. Plus, we
Yeah,
need
plus
to,
it was MMA's advice that that's what we did also. That was how it should be handled.
Well, we've been going at this for 6 months, and we're getting up to the point where they are ready to build, and putting it off will probably pass their point of being able to build using a hub, and they'll have to go to the second alternative route, which is doing individual or regional sites. Because when we talked about it 6 months ago, we knew that they were, and they made their presentation whenever it was, that it was they were gonna be ready to build come summer. And so we could have had a town meeting, we could have had a special town meeting to talk about it or decide it. When was it that the decision came from MMA that you needed to go to town meeting? You remember?
2 weeks ago?
Week and a half ago,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think it seems to me a shame that we are pushing this back. We've been working on this for 7 or 8 years, trying to get an additional resource for our residents, and that it's kind of
Yeah,
going down to this.
and where we were so limited, I mean, I know Sean wanted to have a conversation about using that space over there, and I think that conversation was had. And I guess we don't know why that they can't try to get a lease where we're so limited with the area that we can have, that we can lease. Basically, that is it up by the sand pit. That maybe they could find an alternative piece of property to lease for the structure.
But I think from what I've heard from Derek, the opportunity to do it within the town property eliminates the having to either buy a piece of property or work with a private landowner.
Yeah, that's, the town isn't
But it's
going to have a loss, you know, if they have to do whatever they have to do to find that piece of property. If we can't come up with an agreement that we're gonna let them have a part of the sand pit
For 50 years.
for 50 years, and there's been other people that have questioned whether that's a wise decision for the town, and that's why we need to spend a little more time looking into it.
And the money that they're offering us, right?
Is nothing.
Is nothing.
There's
Well,
no,
it is nothing relative to what you had if they don't. If you don't lease with them, you're out the money they would have paid you, which would pay for, what is the amount that they
They're
were
offering
offering $175.
a month?
That's not much money.
But you pay, how much do you pay for your internet service right now?
A little more than that.
I pay 51.
Well, our phone and internet. Our internet's not.
Go ahead, Kristen, first.
So I can just speak from my perspective as a townsperson listening to all these different meetings, and I never really had a chance to share any of this, but I know that I would have liked to have been able, before a decision was made, to voice what my concerns would be, and I have many of them. So if we're asking the town to enter into a 50-year contract, from where I'm sitting, it feels like that should be a town decision, not just 3 people's idea on it. And I personally have been really uncomfortable with the idea of leasing when maybe they could just have purchased a piece, and then we would be free and clear from having any kind of potential liability. It feels like that was a fast decision, a big decision with a lot of unknowns to it. And from my perspective, sitting over here, it felt like GWI was really trying to be in the driver's seat of that. And if we were going to ask the town for a commitment like that, they really
it would have been worthy of, in my estimation, from sitting here, that it would have been a public hearing kind of a thing, to be able to give the public time to have voice for that. So again, I'm just sitting here, but I've attended all the other meetings and I have other questions too, but we were here talking about dwelling units and 4 ordinances and trying to get everything ready for the town meeting, and it seemed from my perspective that it was going to be a pushed kind of a decision with a lot of ramifications that hadn't been having the thought put into it.
Mrs. Corson?
I was pretty much gonna say the same thing. The only thing I'd add is 50 years is a long time. You don't know what's gonna happen in 50 years, right? Like, we could be a completely different town by then. We could have a town garage built there with trucks coming in and out and all of that type of thing. And not that I see us going down that path immediately, but 50 years, who knows? And will we need that property before 50 years is up?
One of the things that kind of made me feel like we really didn't need to rush is when they stated at the meeting that they will be buying their internet from First Light, because a lot of us already have fiber from First Light. It while them being able to take First Light's fiber and use a grant to extend it to other people and places, what's to say that First Light doesn't decide to up their prices, which in turn carries over to us.
So I guess I'm unclear, did you hear this directly from GWI that they're using First Light fiber?
That
They're
they
building
will
their
be
own-
buying
they're
their
building their own
internet from First Light's fiber, yes.
That was
On
what
par-
my
on parts of
impression
the
was
bill.
too.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
But that could have been a wrong assumption that we misheard in the body of one meeting that they were here. But that's what I remember hearing too.
I don't think.
I thought it was just on parts of the bill they were gonna extend off of First Lights, but again, I couldn't have that.
Well, I asked about the hub, because the hub obviously has to feed from somewhere, and so I said, essentially asked, how is the hub being fed, and they said they would be buying that from First Light. So,
That wasn't my understanding, so I guess I need to go back to, because my understanding as we've worked through this process over the time is that it's a grant, that they're using their facility, so that they are in charge of it, and they're not, they control their own pricing, rather than being at the behest of another service provider.
right, and I'm not sure how that works, maybe they'll, essentially all the internet comes from like 4 places in the world, so as far as where it stops and where it begins and who owns that particular piece of it, maybe they would be buying it outright from First Light. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think that's a question I would need to ask them, because that wasn't my understanding.
Gotcha. So, I do understand where you're coming from as far as the amount of time that this has taken, and I certainly admit that I just hadn't had it at the top of my
I know you've got a lot of other things.
list, so I apologize.
And if we do go forward with this, I think that it would be good to, we need to get together, we need to delineate the piece of property that it's gonna set on, mark it, be able to tell the town exactly what we're looking at
And
and
go look at
where.
it, if they wanna look at it.
And,
Yeah,
yes,
so there were
and-
two that they provided you with 2 options, one up close to the road and one farther back, is that?
I don't think they were too
Yeah, they-
excited about going back.
The two that so the email that they sent with the aerial photo, the one out back is essentially a no-go, just trucks in and out, future. And then the second one was originally supposed to go down that road and be out back, but when I met with Thomas, We thought there was enough room between the road and the actual sand pile to get, there's a few dead poplar trees and whatever right there, so they wouldn't have to be way out back, they'd be really close to that first pole. That was their recommendation. I didn't see a huge problem with it. So that's the proposed site currently.
So what does 1,000 square feet come to area wise? How wide and how deep?
It's gonna be 12 by 20, I think, is the actual finished footprint of the hub. Yeah. So there's a small pile of gravel there, not the big sand pile, but then it kind of drops down 3 or 4 feet, and then it goes over 20 or 30 feet, and then there's the road to go out back. So if it was to go there, it wouldn't hinder us from being able to use the road to go out back, and wouldn't really interfere too much with what's going on up top and what may go on in the future up top. So that was what Thomas and I thought was a pretty good compromise on that. It didn't look anything like his aerial photo, what he had colored out on that. It's actually to the left if you look at that option 1 up close to the road. It's actually to the left of that just a little bit.
So we need to get it staked out.
We need to get it
and let
staked out
townspeople look at it.
and be able to have people see it and vote if that's where they actually, want it, and if they. That's how I.
And they're gonna need parking, and they're gonna need the act road in there and whatever.
It would be just enough for a truck to go in.
Yeah, it's realistically, it's not even 50 feet off the road. It's right there. So like that will be pretty minimal, that impact of it.
Did you have a question, Deb?
I do. How long would it take to come to schedule a special town meeting to address this whole issue? It won't take long, will it? Like a couple weeks?
Do we have to post 10 days?
Yeah. And so we could do it pretty quickly after our town meeting.
Certainly.
I think with your idea of getting the property tagged and.
So people can see it. That was our.
See it.
Also, we ought to come up with a lease price too, so the people know. Do we wanna give that piece of land up for that money?
And then we need to assess it for taxes. I mean, it's a process.
Yeah.
So that's a town property, so what's been your thinking and, they were willing to pay the taxes on it? No?
Yes, they were.
So
But then
that's-
we still have to, I believe, notify the town, notify the people of the town, and then let them have their input on this decision. As you can see, we've had, some difference of opinions in this small room of people right here. And, so this is something that I don't think the three of us, want to undertake on our own as far as giving the okay to. I think that, we want to put this before the town and let them decide.
So if it's a decision, would it require a public hearing? I mean, this is not an ordinance. So you would say it goes to
Probably
special
would,
town.
it probably would require a public hearing, would it?
Why would it require a
Didn't
public
Justin
hearing?
just say that was Ben Lemay's recommendation?
Like this,
Then it goes to a.
Special.
a special town
special
meeting,
town
but not,
meeting,
but not
not a hearing.
necessarily.
Well,
a hearing.
it probably would need site plan review. It's a commercial building. First Light had to have a site plan review when they put their building in West Sumner. The planning board took the lead on that site plan review. I would think that this would be the same thing. So there's 2 things for the town. I would certainly expect the site plan review to happen before GWI signs any lease. I mean, they wanted to guarantee that they could actually do it.
Mhm.
So the planning board should get involved, I think, before too long, if we're seriously considering it.
So I think our order going forward is we mark it out and put it on the planning board's agenda to do the site plan review, and then put it on the special. It would be
So we have a format for site plan review. And who would be so it would be, you would be asking GWI to provide the information regarding the site plan review, would that help?
I would think so.
I think they'd have to do a survey of some kind and.
Well, if you,
If the site plan review ordinance is on the website, just take a look at that. I think the application is there as well.
I mean, I think at this point, we could provide the planning board with what they wanna put there for a building, but we could certainly just what GWI, have them email what they sent us to the planning board, so that they can look at it before they meet.
And so that's the next planning board meeting is next Tuesday. So if we could, I mean, I'd be willing to go back to GWI and see where they are with that, and if that would, and then we come up with a, I don't know how long it would take the site plan review. I mean, it could be, we're talking a 20 by 20 space, and it has a pretty concrete use, and
Susan, would we have to notify abutters
Yes, it's
for a
also,
site plan review?
I believe it's been a while since I read the site plan review. It's an ordinance, and it's just a matter, and the timeline is delineated in the ordinance itself, so I would say the best bet is to read it.
well, if we're willing to do that, then that could at least give them concrete time frame for seeing it, and see whether they have whether their build doesn't go delay too much if we come to that process. And if they come to planning board or somebody, and then there would be some timeline related to them in terms of how long it would take for that to happen.
Sounds good. I wrote a note to make sure that we contact the planning board ASAP.
So in terms of the amount of the lease, I guess the question I had asked you guys was, where had you gotten information about the,
State average?
is there a website or something that says what hub material, the hub leases for internet providers is?
No, that came from First Light.
Well, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't, if that's the competitor who's providing that information, I would rather find it
Well,
from
they're
an
not
independent
necessarily a
source.
competitor if they're providing the internet.
They are a competing internet service provider. So if GWI and First Light would be providing service to the residents. And
Well, I
that's
can reach out to some others also, but it was the industry standard that I was quoted.
their industry standard. Again,
Well,
based on our previous experience with First Light, I would rather have that information come from a more
someone other
independent
than
source.
First Light.
And a direct competitor from,
So Spectrum,
Spectrum, we can try Spectrum,
yeah.
try another. Yeah, we can try a few.
Or if there's, maybe a good place would be the state level program that's doing the internet service for the state, that gives the grants out. I can give you, I can't quote it right now, but
But
they would be able to, I think, have more independent information for you.
And a lot of these places that you're talking about, and they gave us the hub site that they had for this small community up along the coast, down east somewhere, and they didn't have any internet at all. And GWI was able to get in there and provide, so they were bent over backwards to get it. But you have to consider our situation where we already have it. And if they're not willing to give us something that's reasonable for rent on that property for the next 50 years, then I think that you'll find that the town as a whole is not in favor of doing that. But, I mean, that's something that we can process, we can bring it to the vote, we can go through the process with it and see how it plays out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, Kristen Chapman, RSU 10, what's going on in the school district?
all right, tomorrow night at Mount Valley High School at 6:30, what's going on? Annual budget meeting. Do I want you all to come? Yes. Once again, do I want you to come? Yes. Okay, so this is the time when all of the townspeople who are registered voters So Hartford, Sumner, Buckfield, Rumford, Mexico, Roxbury, and, nope, nope. Why can't I remember it? Rumford, Mexico, Hanover, and Roxbury. All of those registered voters get to vote on the warrant articles, which I have in my hand, and they are available on the district's website. There are about something like 15 articles to go and vote on. This is just like the annual town meeting where every single registered voter carries their own vote. It is not me representing Sumner tomorrow night. So if you know people who really have a strong opinion about what's happening in our district and these warrant articles, where do they need to be tomorrow night? At what time?
6:30.
All right. So currently, Sumner is coming in at a 9.1% increase from last year. Last year's increase from the year before that was 1.28%. So it's a very big difference. And the reasoning being that we, as a district, were getting $40,000 more this year from the state than we did last year. And last year we had $2 million more than the prior year. But this has been a difficult year for all the districts across Maine. Lewiston's vote was voted down, if you read that in the headlines. It passed through their school board, it passed through their city council. It did not pass when it came to the voters, and that was astounding to the people in Lewiston. They did not see that coming. I think there's just a breaking point where people are saying, we only have so much money. And I was trying to find out, get a little bit more of an idea of what overall is this going to look like for the taxpayer for Sumner. And we're still trying to finalize those. I'm going to come in and talk with Diane tomorrow and see what that increase is. But between the municipal increase and the RSU increase, these other towns that I was participating in a Zoom with across the state of Maine, they're coming at 12, 13, 14% increases of what the taxpayer is feeling this year as compared to last year. And that's municipal plus RSU. So, I don't know, you can only get so much from people, right? So tomorrow, 6:30, Mount Valley High School, come and vote on the warrant articles, the overall budget, what Sumner's allocation is, and I think that was all I had. Do you have any questions?
Where is that gonna be now?
Who is listening? Rockford, Mount Valley High School, yes.
I would just like to point out that people can register there as well.
And that's great. I was thinking I need to remind people of that.
Yes.
Anyone who's not a registered voter, but you're wanting to come out and vote, you can do that tomorrow at Mount Valley High School. 6:30. All right, thank you.
So the warrant articles will also go on that flyer that came mailed to everybody.
Yes, it was mailed and it's, did it get posted to our town websites at all or?
No.
Okay, I emailed, I don't know who all checks the email, but if you go to RSU 10, you can see this sheet, which is what all the breakdown is for all of the towns, and then the warrant articles here. And if anybody wants my copy of the warrant articles, we want them welcome to have them too.
Okay. Code enforcement officer LPI report. We did have Fred Collins here last week. I thought that was very good to have him join in with the planning board for his thoughts on the additional units. All that business. I don't think we have Doug here tonight.
I don't see him.
But I did want to say, as far as the fire department goes, that Western Maine still has cut out our grates. So I picked them up this afternoon, and our volunteers under my supervision are going to weld the tabs on the bottom and begin painting them ASAP. So hopefully next week we can get the old ones pulled out and new ones installed.
So I need to go get Argon, I used to, what's going on there?
I think we have, well, we do need to talk about what we wanna use for paint. Well, it makes sense, right? Red or black? I'm kinda leaning towards black. Okay,
Dirt too much.
I mean, we could go coyote brown.
That's right.
All right, Sean, roads.
Yeah, I know I said was gonna start Monday on that one, but it's probably gonna be next Monday.
Which one?
My contractor's having an equipment problem. He is getting it fixed this week. We should be all ready to go next week, and we're gonna start on the low side first, because I have a bunch of reclaim that has to be moved in Natco's pit, so that I'm gonna put reclaim on that hill. So we'll start right on that. I promise, we're gonna be there next week.
Could you say again where it is?
What's that?
You,
Lower Sumner Hill.
Lower Sumner Hill.
Yep. And I have done some culvert work on Sumner Hill. I've got that done up there. I've put some gravel out on some roads to still get some water put out. But yeah, next week we'll be real busy right on that road over there. Lower Sumner Hill.
I can't wait to see the sign that says, local traffic only.
That's right, yep.
Can't wait.
Me too.
Animal control?
Animal control has been a little interesting this week. I had a phone call from Sherry Fowler's brother, and he had 5 cats he had to have removed from his house. So I went over and set 2 traps, and I got 2 cats, brought them home. I wanted to wait and get some more before I took them to Fryberry, but then my wife put it out on Facebook.
Because they were all fixed.
Because they're all fixed, so they've been good barn cats or whatever. And, go ahead.
So it turns out that there's a cat community advocacy or something like that in Buckfield
Oh, really?
for feral cats specifically. And these cats are considered a colony. They have to stay together, all 5. I learned all kinds of things. And they basically run free in West Sumner Village, and there's 2, Sherry took care of them, and there's somebody else who took care of them. And so basically they just needed to stop feeding them at Sherry's so that they would migrate down to the other house, and
So
there they live happily ever after, I guess.
and so I took the 2 cats back and released them.
Yep, that's what they wanted us to do. So we did. And if for some reason that second person no longer wants to take care of them, the place in Buckfield will actually come and catch them
Catch
themselves
cats and everything.
and release them together somewhere else.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, well, that's good.
learn something new.
Yeah.
Who knew?
And that's about it on that.
I have talked to the lady that was interested in becoming ACO. I'm gonna send her in. She said she's still interested. I'll send her in to come take a look at the book so she'll know what she's
Do you know if she's trained it on?
trained by the state, like
Yeah.
licensed now.
Okay. Well, I believe we do have to have one license. Right?
They have a year to take the training.
Okay.
You getting help before you have to get that done, huh?
That's the plan.
Okay, so this is roads and fire department related, so I'm gonna double back here before we go to correspondence. So we had, in case of emergency, we had purchased an extra shipping container, right?
That's right.
The fire department had asked if the town would be willing to give them that box for fire training. They wanna make a firebox out of it and use it for their training, so. I thought that might be a good,
Only thing is right now, like in the summertime, I was planning on getting some hay cheap out of the field
and
and
storing it in there.
there, cause I can get
Yeah.
quite a bit cheaper if
Yeah.
I pick it up in the field. The fire department, the building we're gonna be cleaning out, we might need to have some storage. So I was planning on using that for storage, that's it.
Yeah.
So are they gonna destroy it?
It's gonna
I,
fill with smoke, right?
I think that's how it works, is it gets filled with smoke, but it could, I mean, in the Navy, they put propane burners inside of them too, so you had to,
Get
got to
some heat,
spray,
too.
spray the flames and get some heat at the same time, but.
Yeah, so this is just, I guess it's
Yeah,
something you guys
so
gotta
maybe-
talk about, I mean, no real big loss to me, just what I was gonna do with it.
Yeah, so, well, maybe what I can tell them is, once we get the building cleaned out and we get
That would
further
help.
into the year, maybe we can
Yeah.
take a look at
Yep.
that again.
Find out what that other building is too. 'Cause
Yep.
that might be a. Yep. Cool.
Okay, moving on to forms, reports, correspondence, new business. Okay, so we touched on this last week, and we apparently must not have come up with an alternate date, because it's on here. That essentially, our next select board meeting is scheduled for June 11th, which is also the same day as a primary election. So, do we want to switch the select board meeting to another day? And I felt like we had a recommendation, but now that might have been as far as it went.
Yeah, I don't remember that. We carried through to that.
Okay. So, my 2 cents is it probably would be good to have that on another day, because around this time is probably the most happening time of the voting. So the question is, what other day would we want to pick between June 11th and the 22nd? Or I guess theoretically we could do it sooner as well. What works best for the office staff?
Whatever, doesn't matter to me.
I mean, I guess you could incorporate it, the same night as a planning board meeting, but.
So the 4th or the 18th?
4th and 18th.
Well, the 4th is literally
Next week.
next week away.
I would say
so-
the 18th probably.
Or a Wednesday,
Or Thursday?
or Friday.
Currently, there's no meeting before the annual town meeting. This was the last one.
The 11th would have been.
The 11th
Like, if we
is
take the
scheduled to
11th
be-
out, so this is
That's
the
right.
last meeting before the annual town meeting.
Right, so we definitely need to have another
No.
one more.
Are we still
Yes, go ahead.
anticipating a June 13th budget informational meeting?
Yes,
Okay, so that needs to really go out there, so all our townspeople are aware that we're doing that.
What time is that?
To incorporate the select board meeting that night,
I think
for
that
all
would
your
be
units
good.
here.
I like that
What
idea.
time is the informational meeting?
On the 13th,
Does it have a time?
It's
What
a
time is
Thursday.
that?
Thursday.
Thursday.
We were gonna do 6, but if we're incorporating the select board meeting, I don't know, do you guys wanna push that earlier? Or do you wanna have the select board meeting before?
I can't imagine the informational meeting is gonna take more than, well, I mean, you never know. But I just assume leave it for the
6.
time that it's scheduled and we'll have the meeting afterwards.
So the informational meeting will be at 6 p.m.
Okay, and that should get posted, let's see, it's the 13th.
Mhm.
Okay, so this week anyway.
And that was June
13th.
13th.
It's a Thursday.
Alright, I like it. Okay, old business, we have a couple of upcoming vacancies for anyone that, may want to apply for these positions. And before I talk about the vacancy for the animal control officer, did you get a chance to have a second conversation?
Yeah, just said that.
Oh. Man, I must have been. ahead.
I was like, did I say that out loud? I had to think about it for a second. No, I just said it.
This is what our marriage looks like.
Yeah. That's my cheesecake brain. Keep my slices separate.
Yeah, so she's gonna come in and I'll have her come in and look at the book and make sure she's knows what she's signing up for.
Okay. Okay. We will need volunteers to be on the Board of Appeals. We have 3 openings for that. And
I nominate someone right next to me.
Yeah, we all do.
and
No? No?
I don't know. I don't know.
he's holding out
Once a
for
year maybe?
CEO.
Yeah, right. I don't think so.
Well, we also have 2 openings on the planning board, Richard.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself, Richard?
Where do I see myself right here?
You have a few weeks to think about
When
it.
is Dawn done?
At after the June 22nd meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Okay. Upcoming events. Just to reiterate one more time.
6:30.
6:30 tomorrow, the annual RSU 10 budget meeting at Mountain Valley High School Auditorium. The primary election on Tuesday, June 11th at the Sumner Town Office right here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the town meeting, Saturday, June 22nd at 9 a.m. at the Hartford Sumner Elementary School gym. And on Saturday, there is the Ladies Auxiliary Yard Sale from 9 to 2.
A question about the voting. Can people come in and vote right now, or when is early voting?
For an absentee.
Absentee.
Oh, yeah, you can, yes, they can request an absentee
I
ballot
think
now.
Thursday at the close of business is the last day you can request absentee.
Okay.
I think it's next week. Next week.
So
Sorry.
next Thursday is the
We'll
last.
double check and I'll give you that
Okay.
tomorrow.
I know it's usually the Thursday before the election, so that would be 2 weeks.
All right, and then the last thing we have on the agenda for tonight is the select board was going to sit down with our staff here and do one more budget review in anticipation of our warrant for the town meeting.
Same numbers, just written.
In Article 1.
So, as of now, what we've changed in the last few days is we've made the general fund graph a little more user-friendly to
Yes,
read.
that was
And
the goal. I don't know if anybody has any questions or
I like
comments
it.
about
It's
that.
better than the black, gray.
Well, it'll still be black, gray, but it won't be overlapping. So it'll be a little easier to read. There's 3D. You can see that.
Alright. And since we've made a few grammatical changes to Article 5, I'll just read it out loud, and if we catch anything or when
I've been told it might be a little bit harsh, so if everybody thinks I need to tone it down, it's okay to say.
okay,
Which is looking, they're looking at it.
I'll
It's the
just
actual
read
warrant.
Article 5 from the top here. Okay. So, to see if the town will vote to increase the town of Sumner's property tax levy limit, LD1, from $54,552 to $651,385 in the event that the municipal budget approved under the following articles will result in a tax commitment that is greater than that property tax levy limit as recommended by the town select persons in budget committee. Okay, Article 5, Note 1. If this article is voted down, your taxes will still increase. Taxes are based on numerous factors, including the mill rate and property valuation. But when it comes to LD1, there is no direct correlation between increased taxes and passing the override. LD1 is a complex formula that does not include other budgets, but the other budgets do impact the mill rate. Unlike the town budget, the school and county budgets are not subject to LD1. It is possible to see property tax increases without hitting the LD1 cap. Note number 2. LD1 was established in 2007 as an attempt to limit the amount a town could increase in spending per year. In February of 2024, the Maine State Legislature repealed LD1. The repeal will go into effect 90 days after the legislature adjourns, effective date August 9th, 2024. So we will no longer be voting on levy limits. Note number 3. If this article is voted down, the following items will be removed from the budget. Road improvement projects, Gammon Road and Bonnie Road, saving for next reevaluation and town historical preservation. The following items will be decreased from the proposed 2024-25 budget, increased from 2023-2024. Fire department wages will be decreased by 25%. Fire department truck fund will decrease by 50%. Fire department equipment will decrease by 16%. Social services support will decrease by 30%. And recreation budget will decrease by 30%. I think looking at it, it makes even more sense when you can see the parentheses than reading it. But thoughts, comments.
I thought that was harsh.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
Well, we won't have to deal with it next year. This will be a good-
I mean, I think that is a good explanation because, especially, I mean, just thinking back of 2 or 3 years, what I thought the levy limit meant and how I interpreted that versus what actually goes into this complex formula to come up with LD1 was kind of two different things.
And I think that's the case with a lot of people. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, if I say no, my taxes are not going up. That's not really the case.
It basically means that all the big people like RSU 10 can basically take whatever monies we do approve, and since we have no choice but to give them their money, our other projects like the roads projects have to take bigger cuts.
Unless you go and vote tomorrow night and say no.
At 6:30.
And that would be
Well,
Thank you.
I think the only other one that had changes was 22, which is we reworked the wording of the ATV article.
actual.
32, 34
Yeah.
It has one.
ATVs.
Right.
34.
Twenty-two though.
It's up to 22.
I highlighted 22 for you.
Two is roads.
Oh, the notes are different. Explanation, same ideas. Article 5, just more explanation under the notes section.
34 is already, is, ATV.
I'll read the Article 22 note out loud, just so we can hear it. Hopefully I won't put anyone to sleep here. Okay. Article 22 note, regular maintenance includes patching, tree and brush removal, grading and rock raking, culvert replacement, ditching, and adding some gravel to gravel roads. FEMA mitigation project is the adding of riprap. It's supposed to be rip wrap, but
Rip rap.
it's,
Rip rock.
Oh, but it's
Rip rap.
rock. Well, it's
Yeah.
rocks, darn it.
I mean,
It is rock.
Makes sense to me.
It is. I mean, it might even be more understandable, but.
Okay.
It might,
Dash rip rock.
Yeah.
From the Flintstones.
Yeah.
We can change that word, no problem.
Okay. To the ditching on the sides of Fields Hill Road to mitigate future washouts in case of flooding. An example of inclement weather would be considering things such as getting 1 inch plus of rain on winter roads. The recommended road improvements on both Gammon and Bonnie roads would include removing all tar, hauling that tar to the pit and turning it into reclaim, removing rocks, re-ditching, replacing culverts, grading, putting down gravel base, and topping with reclaim. Carryover of $120,000 designated for the Lower Sumner Hill Road project.
Certainly, Sean, Amy, if there's any comments that you guys have that I've.
Looks good.
Okay.
I mean, I think the only thing that, if I was gonna get really nitpicky, I think a little common sense applied to the third item would, all you have to do is imagine that, but I could see someone asking like, well, what's the big deal with a inch of rain? But hopefully they would read the on winter roads part and translate that into.
I could put like in freezing conditions if you think that would be more helpful.
And, yeah, maybe, inch plus of rain
In 15 minutes.
in frozen conditions.
That would do it.
Yeah, that would be an example
Also,
as
Diane
well.
and Sean, you'll wanna have a pretty good idea of what's left over from the Lower Sumner Hill, so that we can amend that carryover of 120. That 120 was what we carried over
Oh,
this
yeah,
year,
no.
and so it'll just be a change.
Otherwise, I like that, I like those explanations.
Okay. And then
Yes, you did some good noting on all of these articles, you did a good job with them.
And then I think 34 is the
34.
next one that has.
Okay, Article 34, see if the town will allow ATV access on the following. Reading to Black Mountain, Town Way. Black Mountain to Greenwoods, Town Way. Greenwoods to 219, which is a state route. River Road from Trailhead to Trailhead, which would be public easement. In accordance with rules established by Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and to give the Select Board the authority to revoke these privileges at any time they deem necessary. that reads a lot better, I think, than the previous. I was getting myself a little confused when I
Yeah,
was
I think it's lower.
reading it the other way. You guys,
Yeah, I think it's pretty clean. And I was just reviewing the other day, the other one, and, I failed to see what, changes were made without comparing the two, but.
the way it read, instead of being bullet points,
Yeah.
it kind of read.
Oh, it ran
Paragraph.
It was just,
Oh,
it was
okay.
just like a sentence, you know.
Yep, long sentence.
Yeah.
Yep, I gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
No,
Board,
Eli.
staff, Alma? Okay,
I appreciate it. I appreciate you trying to put
I
that.
tried, I looked at it quick and I was
all right.
thinking. Yeah.
Well, if there's no further questions, I will entertain a motion for us to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? May 28th meeting adjourned at 6:54 PM.